Yeah, world, WORLD.LE.com. It's the extra. It gives you a map of a country and its chances to get.
Okay, oh, great. That's
Well,
it.
usually pretty good, except there's some island in the middle of
Yes.
the South Pacific.
Not yet?
Hey, guys,
Minutes, I haven't read it, but it might well be worth a look.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir.
That's great.
Dave, you had something?
well, time before last, Hawkins gave a program about Frederick Doris Steele, the artist, and he asked me to bring the Conyers covers by Steele. And if you don't recognize the story, I've got in shorthand on the back, I've got what story was in this issue. Now this, see, they turned the rug around. This is the second stain. But anyway, pass these around and look at it.
When did Collier stop publishing? Because I can remember Collier. When did Collier stop publishing? What about that in 1960s?
There's Milverton. That's the woman that came in and shot Milverton while Holmes and Watson were hiding in the closet.
This is a strand of Collier.
Dave, these work fine for today too, because this story, Copper Beaches, was published. I mean, he did a cover on that too, I think.
I've seen photographs of these covers, but I never knew how big it was.
Well, and this is the three students.
I thought he was gonna say 3 stages, I swear.
This is the missing 3/4 about the soccer player. This is why I like to go live when we get to the speaker, because that's really unless we come up to a podium and I'll speak. You know, where he took the spear and was trying to stick it in the piece of meat. This is pretty sharp, but don't go by his look. This is the solitary cyclist. you're supposed to identify that from the picture, but
Yeah.
anyway, that's one story within that issue.
Right.
And, this one is, the last battle. I'm not, I don't know how you can notify that either, but, oh, I'm not even letting you look at it. And here I've got two stuck together. The top one is the empty house, and the bottom one is the Norwood builder. The Norwood builder, see, with the handprint on the wall, and, this scene was just described, this didn't take place during the empty house, but he told this story about being up on the, cliff and people, throwing rocks at him and so forth.
How do I get in?
And,
I have the link, but
the top one here.
it's asking me for other stuff. I updated my software.
And the
so I
bottom
don't-
of Wisteria Lodge.
When was the last time you saw a magazine for Tennessee?
Well, that costs a little more than this.
I can imagine.
Now,
Vagabond.
Yeah,
Article here called Democracy in Russia.
that must be an old-
Yeah, that'd be less than.
It's all right.
That'd be less than paid.
That's good.
can we, let's make this the last one, okay?
It is the last one.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
The Abbey Grange is the top one, and the Golden Tempstands are Paul Snay, if you wanna be fancy about it.
And Abbey Grange is our story for September.
Who's doing the story in September, by the way?
Let's see. I am. That's right.
I knew that. I was trying to fool you.
You weren't, you can't fool
That-
me, Bill.
I know it. I've been trying.
Fixed him over there, he like.
Oh, I'm gonna get him the whole stack. There you go.
We're not gonna get that far.
Yeah, I'm just I'm getting to the camera so our audience can see.
Did you
What-
get these all from the same place?
No, I got those over 50 years,
Okay,
very short.
great.
My aunt, one of my many aunts, used to save copies of the Saturday Evening Post,
Uh-huh.
and she had them stacked up, a big stack of them on her back porch, screened in back porch. And a number of those, of course, were by Norman Rockwell back in those days,
Yeah, I'm right.
and, probably all collectible today.
And I wish I had them. Dave, thank you for bringing it. This is great. These are cool.
Yeah.
Oh, what else, folks? Anything else before we get into more serious matters of the day? I will bring up something. Jim and I talked a few minutes. Our meeting in October is the same weekend, because I messed up, as the Southern Festival of Books. So one of the questions is, Dean has the story in October. So the question becomes, one, would you be available if we switched a weekend?
Definitely, because I'd like to go to the festival.
Well, I understand. And well, a lot of people want to go to the festival. So the question becomes, I think our meeting is like the 21st. Which is Saturday. So if we would want to switch the meeting to the week later or the week prior?
That would be fine.
Okay. Is there any?
Let me check. Oh, that's unusual. The book festival usually is at the beginning of October. So I'm surprised they put it so.
Dean has the Halloween thing. Let me double check this because I have been. Ever so often I mess up. I know it's hard to believe when I do that, but yeah, the Southern Festival is October 21st and 22nd. So if we were to move, our meeting is scheduled for October the 21st. So we would move to October the 14th.
That works.
Does that work? 14th?
That's fine.
All right, so our quiz master's good. Tom's good. Everybody, I'm getting thumbs up. Jeff, you're good.
Anybody gonna be sick then?
All right. Well, we'll plan it. October's always I'll miss more October meetings than any of them. And I think Dean is starting to figure that out, so I'm gonna try to break it.
I don't take it personally.
I understand. So thank you for that. Okay, October, we'll go to the 14th and that'll work. So what else do we have today to talk about before we get into Miss Kathy's story? Well, all right. Kathy,
All right.
I'm gonna give you
Okay.
the spot right here and I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
what- Oh, Jeff, you're moving the camera. Do you want me to sit here or somewhere? I was gonna stand up anyway.
Okay.
But
That works.
if I'm this way, I'm not, I mean, you can't see my face on there.
No,
I
that's
just
fine.
gotta look.
Don't worry about that. You,
Okay.
you just do,
They're
you
more or
talk
less.
to us
Yeah.
and then we'll.
I think I can stand over here, but,
That's
a great picture.
okay, is this good?
No,
Yeah.
stand over there. Keep going,
Okay, hubby wants me to stand over here.
keep going. Now turn your head, the camera's over here, turn your head down.
That's what I was showing them.
Let me,
Get my good side.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Give me chances.
now, I want everybody to know that Kathy and Ryan are Star Trekkies, trekkers, and you have some sort of command. Tell me what it is.
Camera's that way, baby.
Of course you do.
I'm in Starfleet Command and I'm a captain of a ship called the USS Athena. That's the local chapter of Starfleet Command. So we're here in Nashville. Oh, most of our members are in Nashville, but we do have members from all over. So yeah, join us if you can. We're on Facebook and Starfleet Command is on so they're online. You can join them, but we do mostly in-person meetups. And I wasn't even going to talk about that. So thanks, Jim, for mentioning it. I get to plug my club. Yeah.
well, I think that's what makes this organization, our gathered group. By the time you look at everybody's interest, aside from Sherlock and the canon, I mean,
Yeah.
science fiction has been one of the things that has always been kind of a connector, but the two of y'all bring a higher level of connection.
Okay.
No pun
Thank you.
intended.
Well,
Whoa, I think
and
You
Star
didn't-
Trek, I could talk about the Star Trek connections to Sherlock as well. You know, Moriarty has been on Star Trek and Sherlock has been mentioned several
And
times.
Spock supposedly is a descendant.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Data.
Yeah.
Oh, we ready now?
Too much ceiling, can you?
All right.
Oh, good. There you go.
Okay, so here's a story. Dr. Watson was eating a dinner salad in a fine restaurant when, startled, he noticed an object in the salad. He quickly called the waiter over. "See here, wait, I found a button in my salad." "That's quite all right, sir. It's part of the dressing." That was my real answer.
Can we ask if they're hearing her? Last week, we went the whole hour, nobody could even hear.
Hang on, Sandy's joining.
Yes.
I can hear.
Okay.
I'm the one in the
Folks, can you
background.
hear okay?
Are they hearing? Are they okay?
Yes. Are they okay?
Okay, great. We got thumbs up. Great. Keep it up.
Newcastle had Violet sit in front of a window and he told her funny stories. So maybe that was one of the funny stories. So a copper beech. So it's not BEACH, the beech.
Right.
A copper beech is actually a type of tree. It's deep purple in the spring and turning to a coppery hue in the autumn. And of course, the house is named after that. The house where Newcastle lives in Hampshire had copper beeches. And Conan Doyle's mother actually prevented the death of Holmes with this story. His mother's actually the one that gave him the idea of a golden-haired girl who was kidnapped and made to impersonate someone for a nefarious purpose. Her hair color was changed to chestnut. But very interesting there. And so what else do we get out of this story? Holmes's viewpoint of the countryside was very different from Watson's. So this is what Holmes said to Watson. Remember this in the story. "You look at these scattered houses and you are impressed by their beauty. I look at them and the only thought which comes to me is a feeling of their isolation and of the impunity with which crime may be committed there. They always fill me with horror. It's my belief, Watson, founded upon my experience, that the lowest and vilest alleys in London do not present a more dreadful record of sin than does the smiling, and beautiful countryside. You horrify me, said Watson.
Me too.
Don't we all love the countryside? So Holmes said, but the reason is very obvious. The pressure of public opinion can do in the town what the law cannot accomplish. There is no lane so vile that the scream of a tortured child or the thud of a drunkard's blow does not beget sympathy and indignation among the neighbors. And when the whole machinery of justice is ever so close to that a word of complaint can set it going, and there is but a step between the crime and the dock. But look at these lonely houses, each in its fields, filled for the most part with poor, ignorant folk who know little of the law. Think of the deeds of the hellish cruelty, the hidden wickedness which may go on year in, year out in such places, and none the wise. So one expert said Holmes's reaction was decidedly un-English. It could be more French or a Russian attitude. Perhaps the reason is that Sherlock in his logic sees only those things that pertain to his investigative work. Watson is then Holmes's opposite, whose more emotional nature provides a necessary complement. Such single-mindedness in Holmes seems the only explanation. And this same expert goes on to say, how else could Holmes describe rural England as a scene of a more dreadful record of sin, when the lowest and vilest alleys of London, with Jack the Ripper busy in London carving his niche in history?
Keep it loud because we got people who can't really hear in the room.
Okay.
Okay, so just keep speaking up. You're doing great.
Okay. Another quote from Holmes. I have devised 7 separate explanations, each of which would cover the facts as we know them. How many times has Sherlock said 7 in his stories?
I think 5 times.
Okay. Do you know them?
No, I just read the thing in the
Annotation.
book here.
Yeah, it's got that.
Oh.
Because my annotation had 3.
That's what I read too.
3, okay. In the missing 3/4, Holmes remarks to Watson, I had 7 different schemes for getting a glimpse of that telegram. And in the naval treaty, he tells Percy Phelps that he has furnished him with 7 different clues.
Oh,
So those 2 times plus this story.
oh.
So there was a mastiff. There was a mastiff named Carlo. And remember in the Sussex Vampire, there was also a spaniel named Carlo. Like that seems to be a common name for dogs. So a mastiff, in this case, is a breed of large working dog used as a guard and a fighting dog in England for more than 2,000 years. Dogs of this type were found in European and Asian records dating back to 3000 BC. Surely Mr. Fowler kept away at night when they let the dog out. Did the Tollers already have Carlo before Alice was held captive? We wonder.
Yeah.
And we have Violet Hunter, the governess. Conan Doyle's, one of Conan Doyle's sister was also a governess. It was a common job back then, similar to a nanny. Until the late 19th century, the position of governess was one of the few career options available to single women of the middle class or to women of the upper class whose family fortunes had fallen. A governess' pay was meager, as stated in the book, £4 a month, what she used to make.
Yeah.
And experience could be demeaning. As teacher and nanny to the children of an upper class household, a governess was expected to act like a lady, but treated like a servant. Yet the servants often despised the governess because they give themselves the hairs and upstarts of ladies and their wages as no better than me, said Miss Blankenship in the Thackeray Vanity Fair of 1984. The Quarterly Review, a magazine from that period, described a governess as a person who is our equal in birth, manners, and education, but our inferior in worldly wealth. Some attempt to mitigate the economic drawbacks of the profession was made in 1841, when there was a foundation of Governesses Benefit Association, which established a system of compensation for governesses who were too old to work. And the figure of the governess was popular in Victorian literature. What's a famous governess in Victorian literature?
Jane Eyre.
Yes, Jane Eyre, by Bronte. And of course, Charlotte Bronte's father was a clergyman who worked for some years. And Charlotte worked for some years as a governess, an experience reflected in her fiction. And Jane Eyre features one of literature's most famed governesses, the homely orphan Jane, whose intellect and candor earned the love and the master of the house. And also, Violet was a woman in distress. Women in distress, especially governesses, constitute a large part of Holmes's clientele. Although Holmes scoffs at his practice as turning into an agency for recovering lost lead pencils and giving advice to young ladies from boarding schools, he admits that the case of Miss Violet Hunter was the first of four, was an exceptional one. It was the first of 4 Violets to cross his path. Now, who were the other Violets in Holmes' stories?
Violet de Merville, is that what it's for?
Yeah, Violet de Merville,
Right,
An Adventure of the Illustrious Client. Violet Westbury, in The Adventure of Bruce Parlington Plans.
right.
And Violet Smith, The Adventure of the Solitary Cyclist.
Great.
But Violet Hunter of this story seems to be the most favored. And remember, Violet said, "My accomplishments, sir, may be less than you imagines. A little French, a little German, music and drawing." So she's repeating this to Sherlock, and she said it's what she told Rewcastle. But doesn't it seem like she was trying to gain favor with Sherlock romantically?
Ooh.
We may be sure that Violet knew of Holmes's French ancestry, of his knowledge of German, his love of music, and that art was in his blood. This is what several scholars say, even though it's harder to tell from reading the story. It doesn't seem as obvious. But other things that she said, as you may observe, Mr. Holmes, my hair is somewhat luxuriant. And rather a peculiar tint of chestnut, it has been considered artistic. No doubt she wished to draw Holmes's attention to her best feature and keep his eyes off her face, which Watson said was freckled like a plover's egg.
I didn't see that. Missed that.
I am naturally observant, said Hunter, at 29, as you may have remarked, Mr. Holmes, and I soon had a pretty good plan of the whole house in my head, speaking of Rewcastle. Sounds like she was interested in him. And also this quote, yeah, this is the big one. I remember nothing until I found myself lying in bed, trembling all over. Then I thought of you, Mr. Holmes.
Hey.
So what was Watson's view of Miss Hunter? There's a well-known agency for governesses in the West End called Westaways, where Violet Hunter went.
Mhm.
And we know Watson's wife was also a governess. And remember, Watson said, rather to my disappointment, my friend Holmes manifested no further interest in Violet after the case was over.
Yeah.
So it sounded like he thought she might have been a good match for him, but he wasn't interested. And the case about the plover's egg.
Right.
So a plover, as you might have guessed, is a type of bird. And plover's eggs were a kind of Western European seasonal delicacy. These eggs were recognized as particularly tasty and are sold to eager rural gatherers and thus urban customers as soon as the nesting season begins each year. And it was an egg that had spots on it, so freckled. I guess that it is not the situation which I should like to see a sister of mine apply for. Another quote from Holmes. So implying that he has a sister, which we do know of Enola Holmes, but that was pastiche. And Fuller said, And in this way he managed that our good man should have no want of drink, and that a ladder should be ready at the moment when your master had gone out. So this was when they helped Alice escape. And note that Holmes' earlier deduction about a ladder was wrong, because Holmes was thinking they wanted the ladder for Rucastle to get her out. But Rucastle wouldn't have needed it. It was his house. He could have taken her out the door. So we also have, when Jethro Rucastle wrote to Violet Hunter, instructed, now do try to come, I shall meet you with a dog cart at Winchester. So what is a dog cart?
It's not for dogs.
It's a two-wheeler car, isn't it?
Was it a vehicle pulled by dogs? Probably not. Those such carts did exist.
Two-wheel cart.
Yes. And there were dog carts, as you would think, but in Victorian times, a dog cart was usually a small carriage with two wheels, and it was drawn by a horse. It had two seats, one for the driver and one behind for a passenger. It was originally designed for hunters, with a box behind the driver's seat to contain one or more retriever dogs. And in The Adventure of the Twisted Lip, and in The Hounds of Baskerville, Dr. Mortimer gave Dr. Watson a ride to Baskerville in his dog cart. So another term we have from this, when Holmes received a late night telegram from Violet asking him to come to Black Swan Hotel, and then Holmes told Watson, just look up the trains in Bradshaw. So what is a Bradshaw?
Train schedule, sort of a catalog thing.
Yes, it's called Bradshaw's Railway Companion. It was the standard manual for train travel in England. The guidebook of railway schedules and routes was named after its founder, George Bradshaw, who published his first timetable in 1839 at a cost of 1 shilling. Okay, so how about this? Mr. Fowler and Miss Rucastle were married by special license in Southampton. So a special license? There were 3 ways to get married in England.
Sounds like Andrew Jackson to me.
Really?
Same kind of thing, you know, is it
Yeah.
married or not? Well, not really.
Yeah. There was posting in bands, and there was a common license, and there was a special license. So most people got married by the bands, BANNS, because it was free. A band was an announcement in a church. The couple would notify their parish clergyman of their intent to marry. The clergyman posted their intention at the church and announced the banns at the church service for 3 consecutive Sundays in a row to the wedding. Once the banns had been announced 3 times with no objections, the parson could perform the marriage. It had to be in the parish church. Those who wanted to get married faster had 2 other options. A bishop or his representative could issue a common license. It cost 2 or 3 pounds. It was valid for 3 months, but the couple had to wait 7 days before getting married. Now, a rich couple, particularly from the nobility, had one more option for an even faster wedding. That was the special license. The Archbishop of Canterbury, the highest church official in London, could issue a special license which allowed a couple to get married anywhere, anytime. Application could be made to the ecclesiastical court in London. Such licenses were limited to members of the nobility and their children, baronets and knights, plus certain high government officials and members of parliament. Mr. Fowler was a government official and therefore eligible. So observations we have, notice there were 2 female victims, Violet and Alice, victims of Mr. Rucastle. So this was showing the plight of women at the time. He was jovial to cover it up. It was often mentioned in the story that he was jovial. Mrs. Rucastle was devoted to her husband and son, but had a secret sorrow. She couldn't cover the fact that she didn't like what was going on. Perhaps sympathetic to the other 2 women, but didn't think she could do anything, being under the thumb of her husband, maybe?
Yeah.
It said Violet became head of a private school. Said Mr. Fowler holds a government position on an island. But it doesn't say in the end what happened to Alice besides getting married. So for a married woman, they only note like what her husband did. Like we just assume that she probably had kids and raised the kids at home. So it seems like Violet, well, we know Violet could leave the house whenever she wanted, so it's strange that that Mr. Fowler never approached her to ask, like, what's going on? Have you seen my fiance? And it was a strange coincidence that Mrs. Toller and Holmes both made their move on the same night. I mean, didn't the Rucastle leave the house at other times too? This wouldn't have been like the first time they were going to leave.
Well, he was called to investigate by Miss Hunter.
Yeah, yeah.
While he was out of the house.
So this must have been like the first time, since she had been living there, that the Rucastles were going out. And you think, and this happened over like maybe 3 weeks or so that she worked for him, because they mentioned a fortnight in the book, which is 2 weeks, and then a few days after that. Okay. In the end, we see that Mrs. Toller was good. She was the hero along with Mrs. Fowler, arranging for Alice's escape. So why didn't Mrs. Toller try to help Violet or try to explain to her or do anything? She may have just thought that Violet was just there for the money, which is the only reason she took the job. And as far as Mr. Toller being drunk all the time, maybe it was his wife, because she kept wanting them maybe to do something about it. Maybe it was pressure that he just stayed drunk all the time.
I was wondering if Violet got paid the £100 or 120 up front, or was she just making like 10 a month? And if she only worked 3 weeks, I don't know how much she got.
I think you said at the beginning in the office with the, the employment agency, that he gave her half.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he would need some money for preparation to go.
Right, that's right.
That's right. And in the office though, she turned him down at first.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that is interesting. So we hope he did give her half when he did hire her.
I think the Granada production was spot on with the text. It was very good, because I remember him pulling out some money in the office.
Yeah, and then he just said a portion. He did not say half.
Right, he didn't say how much. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So any other thoughts?
Great job.
I'm curious about the inflation adjusted wages. She got paid £4 a month. And I actually did the calculation that I've forgotten. If anybody's got a phone that they can do an inflation calculation.
Yeah. Does
If
anybody know?
If my recollection's right, I think that worked out to be about $40,000 a year. But
£4, really? Oh,
Yeah.
you mean like in today's money
yeah,
after?
today's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which actually isn't bad, but it's, yeah.
Well, if you're getting room and board plus 43 in a year, that's probably not so bad, but I, my memory may be effective on what the calculation.
What's a pound worth now?
Well, just use the equivalent to $1. I don't know, whatever the $1.10, I don't know, something like that. Just approximated using.
Those kind of figures always just kind of like, what's the point, right? Because it's not today. She didn't make 40,000 pounds in her day, right? It is today because of inflation,
Well,
but does it
yeah,
make
so-
any sense?
Well, the purchase power was the point of it. So for her day, that was that equivalent of that 40,000 today.
Really? Oh, okay.
So that's
Oh,
what.
okay.
Yeah, that's.
According to
That makes sense.
ChatGPT,
In
1
my-
pound in the
Here you go.
Victorian times,
Get away. It's on.
1 pound in the Victorian times would be equivalent to about 124.58 pounds in current.
Well, yeah, but what is that in dollars or in?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's supposed to add 10%
Okay, yeah.
or subtract 10%.
I'm always struck in my reading that women were always underpaid, it seemed like, unless they had a special thing going.
Yeah, it does seem like that. Well, even today, really, it's, yeah.
right.
I noticed some parallels, some other
Mhm.
parallels, particularly with Jane Eyre. The wife kept prisoner in the tower. No one can see,
Mhm.
he's hidden there, but by the husband, and rather than the daughter, it's the same situation. And also I see parallels with, the Speckled Band.
Oh.
Father dominating the two daughters who are due for an inheritance, and one wants to marry, and he's gonna lose that money, and so he's killing them. I mean, you know, rather than imprisoning them, he's killing them all, or trying to. And he's a large man, like Newcastle, but apparently not jolly.
Yeah,
But Newcastle shows himself not really to be jolly several points in this story.
right. It was a front, yeah. Yeah, very interesting, similar stories. And Conan Doyle used some of the same elements in different stories, and yes.
She was kind of recycling some things.
How about the hound? Is that
Oh, well, you have the dog.
kind of,
Yeah.
So Newcastle had a jovial veneer, but every once in a while, he'd say something like, you know, you're asking about your charge, who you're gonna take care of, my little boy. Boy, if you could just see him killing cockroaches with a flipper.
that's my favorite quote. Max.
I was thinking.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that was a good thing, right? Like,
No.
and he was acting like it was, yeah.
Yeah,
He loved it. Hey.
that Holmes points out that can, that not only do parents influence children, but the children can, that
Yeah.
reflect on parents the way the children act. And
That's what it
clue about
was, yeah.
Newcastle's personality.
Right.
probably.
Exactly.
If any of you guys know Ralph Hall, he's a Sherlock Holmes in Louisville. I think he's in the BSI, and his investiture was smack, smack, smack.
He deserves that.
Huh?
He deserves that.
He's an exterminator, yeah.
He earned every bit of that. Ralph's he's one of the good guys.
Yeah.
He's never met anybody. He just years free when you know.
Okay, so I tried to wear electric blue today.
You did well.
I wasn't gonna cut my hair though. Thank you.
So are we ready for Esmeralda? Not yet, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, let's wait for Esmeralda, let's let Esmeralda do what Esmeralda does.
Turn your sound on there, baby. Can't hear.
Esmeralda, are you out there?
There we are.
We see you, let's get some volume.
Sorry
there.
about that.
Timber.
Sorry about that. I do that all the time. Not a job for a girl like a sister, said Holmes of that very odd mister. But the girl in the attic was wildly ecstatic when the sailor boy rescued, then kissed her.
Great, yeah. What I know we have an appropriate ending. Is there other business that we have for our group today?
I have a handout. If you want it, it's
Oh no, you got to take it.
no, I'll put it on the end of the table. I'm editing the Baker Street Journal Christmas Annual. It's all about John Bennett Shaw. And I have 9 other writers. Each of them have interacted with Shaw either in a workshop or their family members. His son, Patrick, his daughter-in-law, Georgia, are writing, and Ray Bessner and Steve Doyle both were in early workshops. In fact, the only John Shaw workshop that I attended was with Gale and Nashville scholars back in '87, the anniversary year of Sherlock Holmes. And it was run by Ray Bessner, and Ray Bessner talks about that particular event in this story. But the only way you can get the Christmas annual from the Baker Street Baker Street Journal is to have a subscription. So I have opportunity for you to sign up for a subscription. You get 4 books, 4 journals. They're quarterly, and the last one is called the Christmas Annual, and it's always one subject. It was Baring Gould background one time, and the ladies and the adventuresses, different kind of stories. And this one is about John Bennett Shaw, and it was done back in 1990 as a December issue, but we're redoing it because a lot of people either didn't see that or they want to know more about him. So if you want to take one of these, you know, I'm not gonna hand them out, I'm just gonna put them back here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jim's right. If you don't currently subscribe to the journal, it is well worth the money. It sort of gives you a different point of view that you might have. You know, while we certainly are very scholarly in our group, when you add this to the mix of your Sherlockian thinking, I think it will be helpful to you. In fact, the last one hasn't gotten to me yet, and our friend Steve Doyle has not gotten a call from me saying, "Where's my journal?"
Oh.
I have not gotten the summer yet, so Steve, if you're out there, I'm looking for it. So send it.
Bill, you might mention that Bill Mason has an article in that latest issue.
And I didn't know. So those that have read it, y'all are seeing Bill Mason stuff. I haven't seen it yet,
Yeah, it's
but
the one
I do get to see Bill Mason though.
he read for us one time, that Homes by Any Other Name.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful piece. So you'll see that.
Is there any other business before we get to our adjourning comment? Dave, yes.
Derek Martin has taken a bride.
Yes, he has. He was married. Those that missed the news.
What did the husband say about that?
Yeah. So certainly we congratulate him.
My wife, no, she's your widow.
Take my wife.
Oh. So if there is no other business, Gail, would you regale us with a reading?
Oh, okay.
Regale, get it? I did that for
Regale.
you.
Very good.
The best poem that has ever been written by a Sherlockian. What was his name?
Vincent Starrett. There
Thank
you go.
Here dwell together still 2 men of note who never lived and so can never die. How very near they seem, yet how remote. That age before the world went all awry. But still the game's afoot for those with ears attuned to catch the distant view. Halloo. England is England, yet for all our fears, only those things the heart believes are true. A yellow fog swirls past the window pane. At night descends upon the fabled street. A lonely hansom splashes through the rain. The ghostly gas lamps fail at 20 feet. Here, though the world explodes, these two survive, and it's always 1895.
Hey.
Well done, and Miss Kathy, thank you so much.
Oh,
Great.
thank you.
You brought points up. I'd read it like the rest of them. I've read it, but now I got to go back and reread for a couple of points you made. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was fun.
You have a file on digital that you can send me?
Oh yeah, I can.
Okay,
Yeah.
we need that.
Okay.
That's we will have it online. Please be sure to check out